Hi everybody, this is Bogus Reviews, and today I'm going to be doing a review on the brand new NECA TMNT Universal Monsters Raphael is the Wolfman figure. So before we take a look at Raphael, let's take a look at the accessories that he comes with. So first up, he comes with a set of open hands. Up next, he comes with a set of fisted hands. Up next, he comes with accessory holding hands. Up next, he comes with his size. They're a little tricky to get in the hands, so I thought I'd show them off on the loops in his belt there. And I think they're just way too large to be stored there in his belt. It takes up the whole torso of the figure, so I think that looks just a little funny. The size look great in his hands, though. I love how this one on the right is like Larry's cane on the end with the wolf there. The silver is painted very nicely. And I like how the one on the left has the bone at the end. That looks really cool. The wrapping has some really cool texturing to it. It has a nice black wash over the blade and the bone parts. That looks very, very cool. Up next, he comes with this standard head sculpt, and honestly, I think this looks a little goofy. I don't think it looks very serious at all. I feel like he looks a little cross-eyed. The glimmer of light on each pupil is painted in a different part, and yeah, he just looks really funny with this head sculpt. I will say I'm definitely not fond of this head sculpt. Up next, he comes with the growling head sculpt, and this is the one I prefer to leave on the figure. This one looks really feral. He looks very rabid. I just love the way this looks. I also think the hair looks a lot better. For some reason, this one doesn't have the little spikes there of hair on top. And yeah, I just think this one looks a lot better. I feel like I can take it more serious than this one. It's kind of weird the teeth are also different. On this goofy looking head sculpt, all of the teeth are sharp. And on this version, it's just the canine teeth that are sharp. So yeah, I think this head sculpt looks amazing. And finally, he comes with this bear trap. And this is sculpted and painted very nicely. It has a little bit of a dry brushing of brown on it, making it look rusted. I think this is just a plastic chain. It's done in silver and has brown paint over top of it. And that looks very nice. You can open and close it. So I think that is very awesome. So yeah, that's a really cool accessory. So now let's go ahead and take a closer look at the rest of the figure. As I said, this head sculpt looks very nice. It's painted very nicely. The bandana has a really nice black wash over top of it. He also has a dark brown wash to his fur. The one weird thing is the brown paint has rubbed off on my fingers, especially when I first took it out of the package. All the parts here that have that dark brown wash over them, the paint was just rubbing off on my fingers, that brown wash. So that is very strange. I like how his torn shirt looks, but I feel like it's a very, very glossy material. I feel like it needs like a matte coat over top of it because his pants are also shiny. It's not quite as bad as the shirt, but yeah, it is very shiny. Another weird thing is this figure smells very, very bad. It's like, it's hard to describe. It's like paint thinner or something. It has a very, very strong scent to it. I really like the sculpt to the shell on this figure. This is the first turtle that has fur on his shell, and that looks strange, but it is sculpted very nicely. It has some nice dark paint over top of it, and I like the way the shirt is ripped to shreds on the back. That looks really good. You also get a black wash over top of the belt here, bringing out the details very nicely. He has some nice paint variation on his jeans. I like how this side is ripped, and you can see the exposed fur there. That looks very nice. Now, the big issue with this figure is that the right leg broke. I even heated it up and it still broke. The whole joint broke off. I was attempting to repair it, and then that joint broke in two on top of the already broken piece. The joints on the figure from the waist down feel extremely fragile. I don't know if the reason that it smells funny is because they're using a new type of material, but this figure just feels super fragile. And yeah, this right leg is broke, so it just barely moves. At least I did get it to where it moves side to side, but it doesn't move up and down the way it should. So that is very unfortunate. I'm very let down by that. The sculpt to the fur is still really nice and has that dark wash to it, but you can tell right here where some of that wash is rubbed off. I don't know if they didn't seal the paint or what. I might go over top of it with a matte coat. That way nothing rubs off anymore. You can see that they did paint the joints, but that too already chipped off. Because of the way the feet are sculpted, I would have preferred this to come with a stand. He does have peg holes, but they're clear back here in his feet. And if you look, there are notches that prevent his feet from moving down all the way. So if you want his feet flat on the ground, you can't do that. I mean, you could force it, but you might scuff that joint right there, how it has that notch. It's not meant to go that far. So I wish they would have sculpted this similar to the Wolfman Ultimate and given him a base. I think that would have been really good. So now let's go ahead and go over his articulation. He has a ball-jointed head and neck that can look up all the way. He can't look down very far. The bandana actually articulates in the back. That was one of my complaints with the Leonardo figures, that didn't articulate. He has shoulders that can only move out that far. He has double-jointed elbows that can bend in that far. You might be able to get them moved just a little bit more, but as I said, all the joints on this figure feel extremely fragile and like they'll break if you force them too much, so I wouldn't recommend pushing the limits of this. Can move side to side here, side to side down here in the forearm. He has a swivel wrist that can move side to side and up and down. I don't know if the camera is catching that, but these wrists are really cracky. That also scares me. He has a very slight swivel here at the waist. It doesn't want to move at all. He has hips that can just about do a complete split. He can kick forward very slightly. He can kick back all the way. He has a very nice thigh swivel. As I said, no articulation on this right leg, but side-to-side movement here because of where it broke. On this side, it doesn't move up here either. This one isn't broke, but it doesn't move up here. Only the bottom joint moves. He has articulation here that can barely move up and down. It feels like I'm going to break it. Even after heating this figure up, these joints still feel like they don't want to move at all. It does move side to side very nicely, but that up and down movement is just not there. He also has ankles that should move up and down, but again, they don't. They kind of rock side to side. And he has toe articulation that can barely move. So yeah, overall, I'm really not happy with the articulation on this. From the waist down, the figure feels like it's going to snap at any given moment. So this definitely isn't a figure I'm going to be posing around very much. So now, let's do some size comparisons. So first up, here he is next to the first version of himself as Frankenstein. I also wanted to mention, since the leg did break on the right side, this one kind of leans just a little bit. So he's kind of always going to be leaning through these size comparisons. Here he is next to Leonardo as the creature from the Black Lagoon, the only other figure in this wave so far to get a second figure. Here he is next to Donatello as the Invisible Man. Here he is next to Mikey as the Mummy. And finally, there he is next to Splinter as Van Helsing. So overall, this figure honestly could have been one of the best figures in the line for me, but I had so many QC issues that it ended up being a nightmare for me. It really sucks that leg broke, because as you can see, he won't stand right now. This could just be an isolated incident. This might just be an issue that I have with mine, but this figure feels way too fragile not to mention it. I feel like everything from the waist down is going to break when I moved it. The only thing that actually felt like it moved fine were the hips, but other than that, this figure just feels way too fragile. So yeah, I do love the design of this figure, but there are just too many QC issues for me to enjoy it. So that's my review. If you like this review, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.